Hello and welcome to another Money Monday with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie and I'm a partner here at Purse Strings, and we're so excited to have this conversation today about getting ready for retirement and getting ready to leave the workforce and making sure you have all your ducks in a row. And so before we dive into that conversation today, forever who's new here, Purse Strings is all about providing tips, tricks, pieces of advice on how to be financially fearless. And then when you're ready to plan for retirement, you're getting divorced, you're buying a home, whatever it may be, we have top tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. Jacob is one of them, and we're so excited to have him. He's a Purse Strings approved. He's a Purse Strings approved professional. But Jacob, could you give us a little intro of yourself?
Certainly. Thanks so much, Maggie. So I'm Jacob Jaegle. I'm a certified financial planner, which means that I'm a fiduciary for my clients. That means that anything I do for my clients is always clients' interest first. Full transparency, full disclosure over absolutely everything that we do, say, recommend, or talk about. So that's a really, really great way to differentiate who the financial advisor is versus how they align with or maybe against some of your goals or recommendations or thoughts and ideas. So I live here in the Denver area. I'm in Colorado. I am a CFP, so I can actually serve all clients under all 50 states. So it doesn't matter where you're located. We can certainly help you in your region, in your area. I've been in financial services since 2006. And I spent the first about half of my career on the banking side, working on deposits, loans, kind of helping build up that side. And then I made a transition over to wealth management, financial planning, and investment recommendations. And that's when I found myself here in a advisory capacity, being able to help plan for retirement, being able to help plan for taking off a little bit of time and taking care of some loved ones and family members, and being able to take a look at everything holistically. I think that's a big differentiator for who a CFP is versus just somebody who's trying to maybe sell an investment itself.
100%. Yeah, we always love that holistic view. And we're so excited to have you on today for this conversation. Anyone tuning in live, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. If you are watching the replay, you can still put them in the comments and we'll work on getting back to those. So just kind of to dive in here, leaving the workforce. That's a big change. Since our whole life we've been told to be working. You know, that was always kind of the plan. That's why we go to school. So where do you even begin to put a plan in place when you're thinking about leaving the workforce?
That's a great question. So when we approach that question, we always like to look at it two ways. So one is objectively with some numbers, but then additionally, we want to ask some soft questions too. When you're leaving the workforce, what are you doing? What's the next role that you have lined up, whether that's a retirement, whether that's as a provider, whether it's even being able to take a little break. Maybe it's something that you need to be able to help get past some recent stresses and be able to reset to move forward. Whatever you're looking for is really important. So identifying what those next steps are and what that means for you as a person is really, really critical and really important.
Yeah, definitely. You got to see what the next step might be.
For sure. When it comes to the numbers aspect and the numbers side of things, that's where you want to start to think a little bit more like a business owner. We want to be able to look at ourselves and our own finances, much like a CFO would of a company. And when we're thinking about being able to look at our own lives like business owners, what we want to do is we want to be able to look at things like our cash flow. We want to look at our balance sheet, and we want to look at our tax returns. I know that saying those three things right out loud is kind of big. It can seem a little scary. It can seem a little overwhelming at times. But if we step back a little bit and if we say, well, how can we make it make sense for us? Think about, where is your money coming in from? Where's your money going out to? What do you own versus what do you owe? And lastly, let's take a look at how taxes have changed for you over time. Yeah. And even having those few things identified makes a huge impact on being able to be prepared for that next phase and transition in life. So first thing I would always say is, let's get information together. Let's understand what that looks like. And at the same time, let's figure out how we really gain a sense of purpose in that next transition of life.
I love that. Yeah, it's all about that purpose, because I know sometimes it can be a little lost as our profession sometimes just becomes our identity.
For sure. For
And
sure.
so a lot of people, are leaving the workforce just for retirement, just to be done and enjoy that last run of just, not working. And so I know there's some ways you say we can supercharge our savings before retirement. What are some ways we can kind of do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's really powerful. And the interesting thing is that the more that we work, the higher our incomes tend to go. So if we've been working for a while, our incomes are probably at the highest that they've ever been. It also helps that inflation's been pretty high recently. So maybe you've had some pretty nice increases in your paycheck, maybe this year or last year. What we want to do to be able to supercharge our savings is we first want to look at being able to save a large amount and at the same time be able to defer it from taxes. How do we do that? The first is going to be within the 401k. So the 401k is going to be our first target, our first resource of being able to put money set aside. Now, you may be saying, hey, I don't have a 401k, but I have a 403b. Don't worry, they work and act the exact same. We're going to get a little nerdy. The 401a, the 457, they also work the same.
Okay.
Nonetheless, we'll say 401k because that's what a lot of folks actually have access to. So the 401k is going to be the first place to start. And one of the nice things about the IRS, one of the nice things about them is that they do give us some annual adjusted figures. And with that, they're increasing the amount that we can put into those 401ks on a regular basis. So as it pertains to the 401k, for this calendar year, the most that you can put in there is $22,500. Now, if you're over the age of 50, you can go one step further, supercharge, and you can add another $7,500 on top.
Wow.
To be able to make your total savings into the 401k alone $30,000.
Okay, that's a lot.
A lot of money.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, there's one way that you can actually take that money and boost it even more in the 401k, and that's with a strategy called the mega backdoor contributions.
Okay.
Now, this is not a recommendation. I should have said that at the beginning. These aren't recommendations. These are thoughts. But with that, one thought is the mega backdoor. And the way that it works is that you have to have access to a 401k or a 403b, one of these plans. And in the plan itself, it has to have what's known as after-tax contributions. If it has an after-tax contribution, then you can put more than that $22,500 into the 401k.
Okay.
Now, it becomes a little bit of an accounting piece. If you have access to both, it's a really, really great tool. We have a female client who works at one of the big 5 tech companies, and they have that as a part of their plan. And she's in her mid-30s, and she's able to put more than the $22,500 away. And she's putting away almost $34,000
Wow.
into her 401k because she's taking advantage of that $22,500. She puts that money in pre-tax. She'll get a match from her employer, and then she has this extra amount that she can put in. That extra amount is going to be an accounting piece, but what you should do is, if you're interested, if you have that income and have that ability to save that much, give your HR department a call and ask if your plan, your 401k, your 403b, if it has after-tax contributions, and if so, how much can you put in?
These are great details. I mean, this is stuff I haven't heard about before, but knowing that you could put that much into your retirement, even younger, not even right before you retire, it's a huge benefit. That if people don't know what to do with some of this extra money and want to know how to invest it, it could be a great option for them.
One of the things I like about it too is that there's that first piece of the $22,500. I always like to say, let's think about that going in on a pre-tax basis. Let's save on taxes. Any amount that goes in after would go in after tax, which is synonymous with Roth. So at the same time, it's a nice way to add some tax diversity to your overall account structures, which is nice because then when you are retired, you can kind of pick and choose which account you take from to help save on taxes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting how much I always think of a lot of people think of taxes as just like a thing that we do in April, and it's kind of a, a hindsight, but you do a lot of pre-tax planning to make sure that's really being proactive than some of us who are just kind of being reactive in doing, what the system tells us to do in August or in April.
For sure, that's a great point. So I think one of the things about working with a holistic financial planner is that we're looking at everything. We're not just
Mhm.
looking at investments in isolation. We're looking at investments. We're looking at taxes. We're looking at estate considerations. So what
Yeah.
happens for your money once you're passed, or gifts and legacies. We're also looking at things like insurance.
Mhm.
And when you put all of those together, it really has a great dance. And
Yeah.
that's where you can make the most out of your money. You can keep the most, i.e., keep your fees as low as possible, keep your costs as low as possible, so you can keep more of those dollars in your own pocket. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're taking a look at everything holistically, because that's really how you're going to get the best and most bang for your buck.
Definitely. That's why I'm always like, I would just use a financial planner, because trying to figure out all these, sound bites and putting them together by yourself, it's a lot of work just to make sure you have enough coverage. And as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts. And so when it works together, that's great. But when it doesn't, it can get a little wobbly and might just tilt one way.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, you want to work with an investment professional. If you don't, there's some people who like to do it on their own. We call them do-it-yourselfers, and that's totally okay too. It's whatever's best for you and
Right.
best for your plan. It's phenomenal. Just as long as you have all the right tools and resources. In this instance, the tool that we talked about is the Mega Backdoor Roth. So you can write that one down real quick and take a look at your own time.
All righty. That sounds good. Mega backdoor Roth. Mega
Mega Backdoor
backdoor
Roth.
Roth.
Maggie, you asked about, how do we supercharge our savings? The other
Yeah.
two I don't want to forget about would be the health savings account.
Hmm.
So the HSA, we hear it as a health savings account because it's designed to be able to put money away for your health account. So that way, if you've got a high deductible health plan, so if you need to put a lot of money out of pocket for your insurance plan, the government allows you to be able to save on a pre-tax basis using a health savings account. So I do put the health savings account into the same supercharge my retirement strategy. And the reason being is because you can actually, in a vast majority of cases, you can save and invest your HSA balance. So whatever you have in your health savings account, you can get it invested in the market for it to be able to grow and compound. It's very powerful. And the nice thing is that once you reach age 65, it acts almost like another IRA.
Wow.
You can pull money out. You'd pay tax on any of the growth or appreciation. But anything you take out, you can use for whatever reason. You're not subject to that non-use penalty. Alternatively, if at any point in time, once you're retired, or at any point in time, I guess in general, you can use the money from the HSA for health expenses tax-free. So it's a really, really powerful way to be able to help pay for medical expenses. And if medical expenses aren't something you're paying for, you likely will. But if healthcare costs aren't in your sleeve, you still can use as a retirement tool, which is pretty cool.
And I just like to always clarify there that like the health savings account is so great because it's not by like December 31st, it's either use it or lose it. Like it does not work like that. And so that way you can kind of really grow this money, which I think is still, it seems like something that might expire, but it doesn't. And so it's always, nice to get that clarification.
That's perfect. And the nice thing is that speaking of end of the year, let's say that you realize in December that you do have access to a high deductible health plan, you do have a health savings account. Well, as long as those dollars are in by tax time, so April 18th, as long as the money is in your HSA by then, it will count for the prior year.
Right.
So for this year, for instance, we've passed April 18th. We can't put any more money into our HSA for 2022, but you sure can start those contributions for 2023.
Awesome. Awesome. Was there one more way you supercharge the accounts?
Yep. The last way to supercharge the account is with a brokerage account. So let's say, for instance, that you have a 401k, but you don't have access to the after-tax contributions. Then you can put money into your brokerage account. It gives you another way to be able to diversify your accounts from a tax standpoint. And there is no cap. There is no limit in terms of how much you can save or set aside. And what's nice is that if you're going to use those funds and you're under 59 and a half, there is no penalty. There's no non-use penalty. The only taxes that you would pay would be on any taxes of growth or any dividends or interest that gets paid out. So it is a really, really nice, easy account, low-hanging fruit for you to take advantage of.
So instead of like the 401k where you do have that age that you need to hit to start taking out the money, that you don't need that for the brokerage account. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility to use that money.
That's exactly right. We've got a good set of clients who want to have financial independence by age 50. They want to be able to be young and they want to earn, they want to save, they want to put money aside. That's great. We say max out that 401k, but also make sure that you're taking advantage of the brokerage account because there isn't that age limitation. So that really helps give access to those who want financial flexibility or freedom. And if they need to use it for anything else, having that tax diversification is always strong.
Definitely, yeah. And so then I know we've touched a little bit on this, but what are some ways you can save on taxes then during retirement?
That's a great question. So the first thing we want to do in terms of being able to save on taxes in retirement is being aware of where the distributions come from. So if we know that we're receiving maybe Social Security or maybe some pension amount, one thing that we can do is we can start to stack the distributions from the IRA on top of that income. So that way we can maximize the lower tax brackets. I guess if we step back, so the way that the American tax system works is it's progressive, which means that with a little bit of income, we're taxed at a small rate. At a little bit more income, the rate goes up. And as income goes higher, the rate goes up, so on and so forth. Right now, we've got 7 tax brackets. In 2026, when the tax laws revert back to their old rules, we may go back to 9. So we'll see where things lie with Congress here in the next few years. But keep in mind that it's a progressive tax system. And what we want to do is we want to be able to use the pension income, which is ordinary income, right? That's taxed the highest. Let's fill up the pensions and the Social Securities and those IRA distributions in the small brackets first. And then for any lofty income that comes from there, let's use that brokerage account because that gets taxed at a lower capital gains tax rate.
Oh, did not know that. So yeah, it's quite a game of what buckets to pull from to get those taxes right.
For sure. It's a delicate balance when you put investments and taxes together and you have them coordinate together. That really helps, I would say, move the needle along, in terms of being able to have your investments last as long as possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research that says if you take from the brokerage account first or from the retirement accounts first, if you actually coordinate how the distributions occur, your money can last the longest as possible. There's a lot of math, a lot of nuances, a lot of nerdiness packed into that. Leave that to us. Always happy to be able to talk it over with you. So if you've got questions on how do your account balances and your account types, how do they matter from a tax and from a growth standpoint, let us know. My contact information is here on the bottom. Reach out to a fiduciary, somebody who really has a good understanding of clients' interest first. Or you can always have maybe your accountant or your CPA talk through some of these questions with you. They would also be another wonderful resource in being able to tap into the tax efficiency of your investment portfolio and retirement horizon.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting how those taxes do make a huge difference. And especially when you go into retirement where you need this money to, you don't want to end up going back to work. You've worked this whole plan, so it works like that. So you want to make sure that you get to keep as much as that money and the least amount, goes to taxes as necessary. So true.
One of the other ways that you can do it to be able to pay as less tax as necessary, we have an obligation to pay our taxes, but we're not obligated to pay too much in taxes. We have to pay what we owe and not anymore. One of the things that you can do is you can pick and choose when you pay taxes. And that strategy is a strategy is known as a Roth conversion.
Okay.
So let's say, for instance, I've got a lot of money in my pre-tax IRA or my pre-tax 401k. but maybe I don't have a whole lot in my after-tax Roth account. You can do what's known as a Roth conversion. So you take money from your IRA and then you move it over into the Roth IRA. So the Roth balance gets bigger. You do pay taxes when you're moving it from one to the next, but it's a great way to be able to help control future pressed income is by being able to mitigate or reduce how much is in that pre-tax account now. We could pay tax in today's historically low tax brackets and then be able to set ourselves up with more of a tax-free account in the Roth.
Oh, that's smart. I like that.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the most surprising things you see from like newly retired clients? I'm sure you have a lot of things that come up.
Yes, that's a great question. So I would actually almost route it back to the first piece. The first point that we talked about was being able to find identity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest challenges that I see with people who exit the workforce, again, whether it's on a temporary basis or on a permanent basis, one of the things that I see often is that people don't really know what they're going to do with all that time.
Yeah.
They don't know how they're going to, really declare themselves as a non-employed person or, not gainfully employed. And I would say the first thing I would really do is be able to really take some time, do some soul searching and find out how you can plant that flag in the ground. Yeah. Whether it's spending more time with family, maybe it's spending more time with friends, maybe it's traveling. That would be up in my bucket, as with the first ones. But traveling would be in mine, as well as maybe volunteering at that organization that you've long contributed to or long thought about. That's a great way to be able to help give yourself some purpose, mm-hmm. is define what that looks like. And the biggest one that we often see is maybe they've accumulated a lot of wealth, or maybe they've done a great job of being able to build up their retirement accounts, but there's just not a strategy for what happens after they're retired. Mm-hmm. Maybe not a strong investment policy, so maybe not the right mix of stocks and bonds. Right. Maybe they don't have a really strong distribution strategy, so they don't know where their income's going to come from. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's just not a strong tax strategy, being able to see how do they take advantage of different things at different points in time. One of the ways that we have seen improvement over the last probably 15 years now is Social Security declaration. You can take your Social Security as early as age 60. Mm-hmm. I do see some folks out there raising their hands right now, saying that I thought it was 62. Well, I get it. For the most part, it's 62. There are some folks that are eligible for taking it as early as 60. One of the things that we have seen improvement on is that people aren't taking at the earliest age possible anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be actually the majority of people, retired folks, even in the early 2000s, would take that Social Security at that earliest age, 62 for most statements. And they would fail to recognize how long they were living. Maybe they weren't earning enough from Social Security. Maybe it could have been a smart decision to live a little bit more on the portfolio for an extra 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Maybe stay employed and working for an extra 2 or 3 years, and then taking it either full retirement age or a later point in time. So what's nice is that over time, people have started to wait. Ladies have started to wait and are taking it closer to full retirement age. And we really, really appreciate that. I recognize that full retirement age or age 70 is not right in every single case. Right. But one of the important things is just for us to recognize that looking at when Social Security distributions start in conjunction with maybe pension income, maybe you get that teacher's pension, maybe you get those distributions from your portfolio, seeing how they all work together. You want to make sure that you're thinking about it wisely, because it is one of those decisions that you can kind of stop and press reset on, but really you don't want to look at that way. And once you make that election for Social Security, you want to look at that almost as a long-term permanent total decision. And it makes a lot of sense to get that math right the first time, as opposed to have to make a decision, rerun it, do some
Yeah.
corrective things, and then hit reset. That's a lot harder to be able to get it back into correction mode.
And so a lot of people ask, what are the benefits of waiting 2 more years to take Social Security? I mean, granted, you might be working and earning an income, but what's the benefit on the Social Security aspect?
Got it. No, that's great. So let's say that you're putting in the towel at work and you're choosing to no longer work. You're ready to retire. Well, full retirement age right now is about 66 and a half. It's going to continue to get pressed out a little bit further. But for each year that you delay your Social Security, Social Security actually gives you a 8% increase in your benefit amount.
Wow.
And the nice thing is that it's not actually just an annual increase. So it's actually a month-over-month increase. So let's say that you wait from 66 and 6 months to waiting until 66 and 7 months. They'd actually give you a 1 month increase that, by 8% divided by 12, whatever that number is. They would give you that small increase, and they would give you that increase forever. So if you wait, let's say for instance that your benefit's $1,000 a month. Well, if you wait a year, they would give you 8%, so your benefit would go up to $1,080.
Mm-hmm.
And if you waited 2 years, they would give you 8% plus 8%, which is 16%. So it would move up from $1,000 each month to $1,160 each month.
Right.
So there's some benefit in waiting in that they do give you an 8% annual increase, and that increase starts at full retirement age, and then it goes as long as age 70. So once you reach age 70, there's no reason to wait any longer. Go ahead and pull that switch and start receiving that income. But in some instances, in a lot of cases, it actually can make sense to wait taking your Social Security until later.
So if I remember right, that's about like if you were to take the full retirement or your retirement age, let's say it's 100%, the full retirement, where at 70, it'd be like 124%, I think, of the income, 816,
6, 8,
something like that.
9. Yeah. So it would be about a 24% increase. So it would move up in that instance from $1,000 to $1,240 every month. So it's a 24% increase on your benefits forever, which is really strong.
Which, that first year might be like, oh, it's only $80 a month, which is helpful to have an extra $80 a month. But if you're trying to get out of the workforce, it's like, is it worth it? But if you wait a couple years, I mean, cumulatively, if you have an extra, let's say $240 every month for an extra 12 months, I mean, that's over a couple grand a year. And sometimes, you hear in retirement, that's all you really need. You just need a little bit more every month just to make everything work. And so sometimes that extra $200 can really make all the difference if you did that pre-planning.
That's exactly right. Speaking of the power of the pre-planning, let's go one step further. And let's say that you wait from 66 until age 67. That extra 1 year of earning and savings, that extra 1 year of not taking a distribution from the portfolio, that extra 1 year of Social Security compounding, and you get an extra number to help boost the base of Social Security. That kind of triple increase approach can really have positive, significant outcomes over the long-term success of your whole portfolio and total financial plan. So it's really important that as you're thinking about making that decision to retire, you give somebody a call, you put together a financial plan, you want to have some projections to see what it would look like in the future and be able to run some analyses and some situations to see how we can stress test it to make sure you're getting the biggest and best bang for the buck.
Awesome. And so if someone's thinking about, retirement, hopefully sometime soon in the next couple years, when's the best time for them to start talking to you? 2 years before they want to retire? 10 years before they want to retire? I mean, what's like ideal?
Golly, ideal is as early as possible. And the reason being is because the more that your money has time to grow and to invest in the compound, you're just going to give your money the best ability for it to work in your favor. So if you can do it early, that's great. If you've got kids who you want to encourage them to give somebody a call to start it early, that's great. I would highly recommend that they do that, whether it's with an investment professional like someone like myself, or whether it's with the 401k person who stops into their office once a year. They really, really should be having those conversations early. The earlier you start, the earlier you invest, and the longer your money has to work, the better.
Yep.
Now, that said, as you're starting to define milestones, so retirement, for instance, the earlier you're starting to define that milestone, the more you should come to us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our clients who we've talked with this year, a lot of them are planning for retirement, and they're in their mid-50s looking for retirement in their mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to make sure that they're taking advantage of all of these different savings types that we've talked about and doing it to the best of their ability, so that way they're not sacrificing spending a little bit of money today for the benefit of retirement in the future. So
Right.
That's just what we've seen a lot, and it's really powerful when you give yourself a multi-year horizon. Let's say you're only a year or two out. It's not the end of the world. We can still put together what the numbers look like and see how we have retirement horizon put together for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I know those last couple of years, the way they compound is really great. But it's, every year really counts.
Yes.
So I feel like we've covered a lot of great information today. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure is shared?
Maggie, we have touched base on a lot of things. Some things were hopefully a little superficial, hopefully a few things that were low-hanging fruits and things that were easy to identify. I know we went a little nerdy in some parts and sections, so don't get overwhelmed by that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's a quick Google search, or it's a quick phone call or a quick email. Happy to be able to go through any of those questions with you and be able to be a resource. I am a purse strings approved professional, and I am a fiduciary. I'm here for my client's best interest. And we only get paid for the assets under our management. So if there's a question that pops up, feel free to put it in my inbox. I'm always happy to be able to answer those questions and be a resource for any of the purse strings ladies that are out there. I want to be able to help answer all your questions and give you all the confidence that you need for this next phase of life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. I really appreciate all this great education today. And if anyone has any more questions or wants to reach out to Jacob, his email's been going through the bottom down here. He's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you can check him out on our site, pursestrings.co. So thank you again, Jacob, and we'll talk to everyone again next week.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Maggie. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a great day and a successful week ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.